Good evening and welcome to today's edition of the Captain's Log. Today is the 30th of December 2020. Just 2 more days and this dreadful year will be over. It's just about a quarter after 6 in the evening, and I've had a kind of a interesting past couple of days. Not interesting as far as the work, just the dealing with a lot of weather issues. So the last recording was done on the 22nd of December, which was the day before I was supposed to go home for the Christmas holiday. And I picked up an extra shift, so I was only going to be home for a day and a half. And I had talked about the forecast of blizzards, and sure enough, that's what happened. Whole central Minnesota, Wisconsin, well, the western portion of Wisconsin, and some other surrounding areas got hit with a really nasty blizzard. I was really surprised just how intense it was. It wasn't looking like it was going to be a monster storm, and it turned out to be a monster storm. So looking ahead at the weather, I told my dispatcher, I was like, hey, you know what? Don't give me a home load on Wednesday night for early Thursday morning delivery, and I'll just stay here and do something local. And what had actually happened was I was doing a route, and I finished that route excuse me, and I got back to the terminal, and I saw what the weather was doing, and I asked the dispatcher if they had anything that was close, because where I was originally slated to go was into the weather, and they said, well, I got this other route if you want it. And so I wound up picking up that route. It wasn't too bad. I got back to the terminal, and I dropped the trailer and parked the truck, and I told the day dispatchers, like, hey, do you have any loads that need to get out, because I still had hours, and she said, no, we don't have anything, everything's been covered, because this is the day after the storm, Christmas Eve. Now, we weren't working Christmas Eve night into Christmas morning because the stores that we delivered to weren't taking any deliveries. They were closed. So they decided that there wasn't anything extra available, so I wound up just parking the truck over at the truck stop for a day. And then Christmas Day I actually drove back to the terminal. It's just 2 miles away, and they gave me a load, but the stores weren't taking deliveries until 11 o'clock at night, and this is, I don't know, like 10 in the morning. I got up Christmas morning. It's always been a tradition in the family to have a big, huge breakfast on Christmas morning, and I went into Denny's at the truck stop, and I had a big Christmas breakfast, and it was kind of nasty. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, excuse me, or just why the food was so lousy, but it was terrible, and I was a little disappointed that I had chosen to go to Denny's. I mean, there was a Perkins, which is just around the corner from the truck stop. I didn't know if they were open or not, but I had asked the Denny's the day before if they were going to be open on Christmas Day, and they said, yeah, of course we'll be open 6 a.m. So I think I woke up about 8:30. I went over and I had a meal and came back to the truck, and then I drove over to the terminal and parked the truck. And they wouldn't give me my paperwork because their rationale was if something were to happen, like if I were to get sick or have a truck malfunction or something were to happen, they don't want to give me the paperwork until I was getting ready to take the load. So I wound up just sleeping for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, because the load they gave me was going up to northern Minnesota, and it's about a 4.5 to 5 is a really not conservative. That's not the word I'm looking for. Ambitious drive time, and so I decided to give myself 6 hours to get there. And I'm glad I gave myself that extra time, because it wasn't snowing down here, and it wasn't snowing up there, but the roads weren't 100%. They were still recovering from the storm. So I pulled into a Quick Trip gas station when they have some truck parking and diesel pumps, so I could put some fuel, because I like to use the winterized fuel, because non-winterized diesel fuel can gel in the cold weather, and that could be really bad for your day. So I like to use the winterized fuel, and I still had about, when I left the terminal, I had 3/4 of a tank, and I don't like to let it get below a half in the wintertime. So I figured, well, I'll just drive up to Superior, Wisconsin, which is just outside of the Minnesota border. It kind of bunches right up against Duluth and the harbor there, and my fuel card wouldn't work. So unfortunately, I couldn't get the winterized fuel up there. I could use my own personal credit card to put fuel in the truck, but the company gave me a fuel card. I still have to pay for it because I own the vehicle, but they take it out of my paycheck instead of me, like using a personal debit card or credit card to buy the fuel. So what I wound up doing is just, not putting fuel. And like I said, I still had 3/4 of a tank, a little less than 3/4 of a tank, and I finished the 3 deliveries that I had that night, and then I drove. I wasn't supposed to go home. I was just supposed to go back to the terminal. But I told him, I was like, look, I haven't been home in a week, and I had some packages that were set to be delivered, and I just want to swing by the house long enough for me to throw them inside and grab the mail. And they're like, yeah, you're an owner operator, you can pretty much do whatever you want, So I said, okay, well, I'm going to swing by my house and check the mail and throw those packages inside. And thankfully they were there. And where I live, they didn't get a whole lot of snow. They got about 2 inches of snow. Of course, the Twin Cities area got, upwards of 8 inches, 8 to 12 inches, somewhere in that range. And so I was really surprised I didn't have a whole lot of snow. So anyways, I just stopped briefly long enough, like not even 10 minutes, to throw those things in the house and grab the mail. And then there's a Flying J truck stop, which is not terribly far from my house. It's about 4 miles. So I drove over there, and of course it's Christmas night. Well, actually, it was the 26th. I mean, it was after midnight. So I stopped at the the Flying J, and I wound up putting non-winterized fuel into my truck. But I do carry anti-gel additive, so I put that in. And then, of course, there was no parking spaces available. It's really hard sometimes to find a parking place at night because everyone's shut down, they're sleeping. So it's really easy to find a parking place during the daytime because everyone's up working. So I wound up driving to the rest area, which is around the corner from where the Flying J is, and there was not a single truck in the rest area, which surprised me. There's usually 1 or 2 pretty much around the clock, but there was none when I pulled in. So I pulled in, I parked the truck, and I shut down. Now, curiously, if I were to have stopped up there in like Superior, Duluth area when my shift was done, and then drive to work from up there, it would have taken me 5+ hours. But because I went home and did those quick little errands, it only takes 4 hours. So I actually saved time by going home. So figure that one out. It just kind of, obviously I shut down later than I would have if I would have stopped when I finished my load. So I wound up driving in the next day, and I went back to work, and then the next day, so I think came back Saturday night, so and Sunday. I think it was Monday night. Yeah, it must have been, maybe it was Sunday night. I shut down because we had another little snowstorm go through, and I didn't really want to deal with it. And as an owner-operator, I have to make decisions not based on what the company wants. I mean, the company that I contract to, but I have to make decisions based on what's best for my company. And the company I contract to, they have their owner-operator side and they have their company driver side. So they've got plenty of drivers and they've got plenty of trucks. So if they lose a truck, like in an accident, like someone drives off the road or whatever because of the snowstorm, they can kind of absorb that. But because I only own one truck and I'm one person, an accident in that case would be a complete loss of revenue for my company. So I made the decision based on what's best for my company is not to drive in bad weather. And so I set for a night. Then the next day worked, and then just this past Tuesday I was up in the Upper Peninsula, which is about 5.5 6 hour drive from the terminal, up in a town called Houghton, Michigan. And I was up there, and when I left the terminal to start the route, the weather was clear and everything, and the roads were fine. When I finally got up there, it started snowing, and I could have drove back and stopped in a town called Rhinelander and shut down there. Rhinelander's only 3 hours from the terminal, but because the snow was getting worse and the roads, there was no one out, maintaining the roads, like there was no snow plows or anything out, I elected to stay in Houghton, and I drove. The next day, my dispatcher called me, said, "Hey, we know the storm is coming. There's a winter weather advisory. So why don't you head in now?" My load wasn't due to be picked up until like midnight, and this is about 2 in the afternoon. So we're talking, that's 10 hours? 10 hours ahead of when my load's actually picked up, and it's a 5-hour drive on a good day. So I figured, that's probably at least a 6-hour deal with, because the roads weren't completely cleared yet. So I said, yeah, I'll head in now, and hopefully we can try and beat the storm. And I got to Rhinelander, and I stopped and checked the weather and checked the road conditions ahead. And then I kept driving all the way down to Plover, Wisconsin, which is a little bitty tiny little town. And I pulled in to get fuel. Of course, they have a Quick Trip there. And that's one of our authorized fueling locations. So I pulled in there and actually bought my winterized diesel fuel, because they're the only ones that sell it. The Flying J's and the Pilots, they're also one of our company's authorized fueling locations. So I stopped there, and it was snowing, not horrible. The roads were in pretty good condition. The snow was that light and fluffy kind of snow, so it wasn't really making a hassle on the roads. It was just kicking up a lot of that flaky stuff, and it was melting, of course, on the windshield, and my wipers kept icing over. So I pulled over a couple times to break the ice off my windshield wipers. And of course, so I got fuel, got myself a little snack, got back on the highway, and from when I left there, about 10 minutes south of where that Quick Trip is, the road conditions changed, and they changed dramatically. I mean, we're talking heavy, wet snow, 4 inches thick, and it's not been cleared. It's just sitting there. You can't even see the road. So I drove on. I got off the highway, off the interstate to get onto one of these country roads that goes back to our distribution center. And when I got off the road, it didn't look too terrible. And I got about a mile away from the exit, and the roads just turned into absolute nightmare. Thick, heavy, slushy, wet snow, and it hadn't been cleaned. The road, it's a very narrow country road. It's only a 2-lane road, and there's no shoulders or anything, so you got to be on your game. You know, if you drift over too far, you're in a ditch. So I cruised about 30 miles an hour or so. So from when I left Houghton, it took me almost 8 hours to what normally takes 5.5 to get down. And I pulled over to another Quick Trip. This is a really small little place. It's not like a truck stop where it has, like, 100 parking places. It has like 4 or 5 truck parking slots, and I was lucky enough to find a parking space. So I pulled in, parked the truck, called dispatch and said, hey, look, the roads are completely covered in snow. There's no plows out. I still had time available on my clock, so I said, I'm going to sit here and wait to see what happens with the road conditions, and if the state comes out and plows the roads, then I'll continue. And I was only 30 miles from the terminal. So, I got back on the highway, or I'm sorry, I parked the truck, and I went and got something to eat, and about 2 hours later, they took the load away from me. They didn't take it away from me like because I was doing something wrong, but because I wouldn't have enough time to actually do the load. Had been able to get back on the road and made it, I wouldn't have enough legal hours left to drive on my clock. So they took the load away, and I don't know if they gave it to somebody else or what. They didn't say. They just said, we removed this trip. And so then I went to bed. Woke up that was last night. Woke up this morning. Psycho was being a pain because she usually gets fed about 4:30 and 5 in the morning, but because I stopped and it was only 10 o'clock at night and went to bed, I hadn't woken up yet. So she was she's really weird. When she wants my attention, she knows how to get it. She's smart because she knows if I'm watching TV in the truck, there's a little ledge where the TV sits, and she will get up on that ledge and block the TV and stare at me like, are you gonna feed me or what? And I look at her, and she'll make a little meowing sound, and then if I say anything to her referencing a meal, I don't want to say it now because she'll get all happy. And I just fed her, and I'm trying to keep her skinny because she got a little overweight when I was leaving her home by herself when I first started at this company before I got my own truck. And she this morning was walking on my back, walking on my head, and then kind of really trying to get my attention. And just as I woke up and set up, the phone rang, and it was the load planner asking, since I've already had 10 hours off, if I wanted to take a load this morning, a real quick load, over to 2 stores, frozen load. And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So the roads are cleared up by now. I drove in, picked up that load, came back, and then tonight I'm supposed to be going home. I didn't get to go home for Christmas because of the storm, except for that, that 5 minutes I stopped to put the stuff in the house. So I haven't actually been home, really. So I am waiting because I had to take another 10 hours off in order to do tonight's load. So I can't start work until 2 a.m. So they gave me 2 loads tonight. They gave me a load, one-stop load, only 13,000 pounds. So it's a really light, easy one-stop load, but it's 300 miles. So I gotta go deliver this 300-mile load, 150 each way, obviously, and then come back and pick up another load, and then take that to two stores in Minnesota and pick up a loaded trailer of pallets. So I was hoping to be home by like 4 in the morning, but I'm probably not going to be home until probably noon, which really sucks because I was expecting to be home earlier. But you know, we'll make do. But anyway, so tonight the weather is looking pretty good, so hopefully I'll be able to get home and not have any issues with weather. Get these 3 stores delivered, pick up the pallet trailer, and then go home for a day and a half because of the holiday. And if I wanted to get the holiday pay, I had to pick up an extra shift. So normally I'd be off whatever is left of Thursday. So I'm usually get home about 4 in the morning on Thursday, so I have all the rest of that day. I have all day Friday, and then basically half the day Saturday. So I usually go back to work about 2 o'clock on Saturday. But because of getting the holiday pay, I'm only going to be home whatever's left of Thursday and half of Friday. Whatever amount of time I get for 34 hours. Because after you take 34 straight hours off duty, your weekly 70-hour clock resets. So I'll get another 70 hours available to me. So that's my plan tonight. Hopefully I'll be able to get home in a decent time. And then that's going to be it for today's edition. I don't really have anything else to add. I will say that I'm going to start doing some different segments just for my own personal amusement, and if anyone out there is amused by it, of looking at movies, television, and like making my I don't know if you want to call it like a top 10 or what, just my list of whatever it is. So let's say TV shows, and let's just pick genre, buddy cop shows. So I'll count down, in my opinion, what are the 5 or 10 best buddy cop shows. So that's what I'm planning on adding to the show. It won't be for a half hour, 40 minutes. It'll be like a little 5-10 minute segment, just to add something different than just my ramblings about daily headaches in my job and flying. I'm not doing any flying this weekend. So next weekend I'm going to be doing some flying if the weather permits. So that's going to be it for today. I did mention on the last one that I was waiting to see what my tax bill is going to be this term, this quarter, and I got that today, and it looks like if nothing changes when I submit my documents that I haven't got to submit for a couple of weeks because I haven't been home. So when I submit those, we'll see if there's any change. But as of right now, I have to pay $1,900 to the feds, and just shy of $1,950 to the state. And then I gotta pay my Secretary of State's office for the right to use my business name, and then so that's basically $3,000 is what I'm gonna have to pay. I've got that and plenty more that I got saved up from in my tax account, and I'm gonna find out from my accountant whether or not I should hang on to that until after the whole year's income tax returns are done, and see if I owe anything, or if not, I can use that extra money that I have saved up that I put aside for taxes and use that to pay off some more bills, pay off my business loan and my credit card. There's probably not quite enough to do both, but there's enough to pay off the credit card and a substantial portion of the business loan. So I'll have like $7,000, and the credit card balance is around $4,000. So I'll pay that off. Now I'll leave $3,000. I owe $6,000, just shy of $6,000 on the business loan. So that'll basically pay off half of that business loan. So I'll be in a much, much better financial standing. But if he tells me just to hang on to it, and then I'll do that, because I don't want to get stuck with a bill sometime down the line and not have the money for it. But also at the same time, I don't want debt. I want to get all of the debt out of my life. Once all that debt's out of my life, my job is basically 100% profit. Once my monthly business expenses probably run about, I haven't done the exact numbers, $1,000 a week in fuel, another $300 a month in insurance, and so that's your bottom line. I mean, that's what you have to pay out of before you pay anything else, and then once that's done, just maintenance, upkeep, that's all I got left to pay. So if I'm making $12,000 a month, my monthly expenses are $5,000 a month, then that leaves me $7,000 of pure profit every month. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, things are varying right now because it's winter time, so we're dealing with obviously the winter weather. But hopefully coming March, when spring comes, then I'll be able to not be spending so much money on fuel, because right now, because it's cold, my truck is I don't have an APU, so in order to not freeze, I have to have the engine idling to keep heat going, and electricity for the TV and the DVD player and stuff like that. So hopefully that will basically level out once the weather starts warming up, and I can actually not have to idle a truck for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right now it's not idling because I'm just parked, and it's warm enough that when I turn off the engine, that I'm not too worried about being cold. But I'm going to turn it back on here in a minute and go to bed. But first, I'm gonna drive back over to the terminal. I'm at a truck stop right now. I came over here, got some food, and I'm gonna drive back over to the terminal and then park the truck and go to sleep for about 6 hours. So on that note, that's all for today's captain's log. I'll look forward to doing the top 10s. I think the first one I'm gonna do is probably not 100%, but top 10 episodes of ER. So not just a medical drama genre, but that particular show. I love that show. The later seasons kind of got me down a little bit, but the early seasons I used to watch it religiously. So I'm going to count down my top 10 episodes of ER. On that note, that's all for tonight. Thanks for watching the Captain's Log. We'll see you in a couple weeks.